Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. The show is designed to give you solutions to your day-to-day management and leadership problems. It's hosted by Matthew Haddock, a frontline manager and leader with over 25 years of experience. If you're ready, then let's get on with the show.
Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. I do hope everyone is well and getting the results they want with their team. This episode, we're going to look into a few different ideas around training. But don't worry, it's not all going to be about negativeness. Obviously in the show, I always want to give you something that you can take away and apply. But first, what is this show about? Well, of course, it's all about management, communication, leadership, and much more. And of course, I'm your host, Matthew Haddock. And as ever, please like, share, rate the show, and share it with anyone else who might get the benefit of improving their leadership skills. This week, I'm diving into why training is usually a waste of time at work. Yep, I said it. Companies pour billions and billions into training every year. But let's be honest, a lot of the investment goes straight down the drain. How many training courses do you really remember? Come on, be honest. If you're on a training course, can you remember the last really good one you went on, the one that really stuck? Do you? Maybe not. One reason is because most training isn't designed to stick. It's not designed psychologically to hit the right triggers in the human brain. But don't worry. By the end of this episode, I'm hoping that we can turn that around. I'm hoping some of you, when you're setting your training up as managers and leaders, will take some of this advice on board and make your training the best it is ever going to be. But firstly, let's go back to basics. Why does training fail? And why is it often a waste of time and effort? What happens? Well, firstly, look, as I said at the beginning, I'm not anti-training. The whole episode isn't around bashing training. There is some training which is absolutely mandatory and needs to be done. Think of a really strong induction into your business or your site where people are working. Think of the training on safety that they need. And of course, the training on the role that you need to do. All those are really important. But let's be blunt. Most corporate training is a bit of a tick box exercise. Something you have to do, but adds nothing in real value. Let's play it out in your head. Let's see what happens, right? There's a problem that shows up. I don't know, it could be poor communication, performance is lagging, some sort of technical issue, operational mistakes, sales problems. So someone says, we need training. There's an easy fix. It's something that goes on all the root cause analysis. You'll see training needing human error. And it's a way of passing the blame down the chain of command. It's not taking responsibility for your team. It's saying, you didn't train them, so let's train them and that'll fix it all. Of course, what comes on then? Maybe a half-a-day workshop, maybe a one-day workshop if you're really lucky, or of course, the famous online module that's scheduled in to everyone's diary. A training course that everyone will, go on, but most of them won't even remember. It'll be knocked together by someone inside the business. Or maybe it's an off-the-shelf pack someone's gone and bought. And people will attend, of course they have to attend, in body. They might take notes, most of the time they don't. And let's be fair, by the time it gets to Friday, 90% of what they supposedly learn is definitely not in their heads or anywhere. It's gone. Look, according to research, this is not just me, but according to Harvard Business Review, and others have done this, only 10 to 20% of training is ever applied back on the job. And that's a lot of wasted time, energy, and of course, money. So why does it happen? Let's break it down. There's no clear link to the real world when they set these up. People don't seem to see the training connecting what they actually do. It's seen as a chore. How many ones have you been on for data protection? Really important stuff, data protection. If you think of what's going on in the world with cyber attacks, it's amazingly important. Most people just see it as something I've got to do. It's in my personal development plan, got to do it. There's a lack of reinforcement. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, no end-to-end with this training. There's no real expectation of anyone to really learn it. If you throw someone on an hour course, and sometimes it can be even less than that, and you expect them to know everything about the subject, it'd be like telling someone to learn a new language in a single weekend. They click through the online version. Get to the quiz as quick as I can, do the quiz, have 3 or 4 goes at it, because of course you can fail the quiz as many times as you want, which seems nonsense. But yeah, that's it. Or you might have to go through a module again, and of course you work out what the answer is. You're not learning, you're just repeating. There's no accountability. Managers don't follow up. And the training isn't held responsible, or the trainee isn't held any responsible for doing the applied learning. It's just gone. No one even bothers. They might not even talk about it. You get the wrong audience. I mean, this is even more ridiculous, isn't it? Sometimes your training is given to everyone, but only a few people need it. So why are we training everyone? That just doesn't make any sense. And of course, the old timing, there's never time to do training, and we know that. But training's thrown together, it's the wrong time, and when people are so swamped with deadlines, it doesn't stick. It's another chore, get through it. So that's why these things don't happen, that's why it fails. So let's go into the do's and don'ts. As I said at the beginning, I want this to make this so you can get better. So what are the do's and don'ts of training? What can you do to set it up better and make sure it works? Let's fix these things. Here's some do's and don'ts for setting up training that actually is worth the time of your team and the time of you. Start with the don'ts. Don't train for training's sake. If no one needs to be there, training everyone is just a waste of time. You're always going to be tying people up. There's no clear business objective, so don't just train because you think it sounds good. Don't put people on training courses who just don't need to be there. Don't ignore the context. When you're teaching someone and you're teaching negotiation skills, for instance, then again, you don't need to train everyone, especially those who don't do negotiation. So why do it? Always ask, is this a relevance to that person? I worked in food businesses quite a long time. We put training together for food safety, and it's really important. This keeps people safe, it keeps your business safe, it does the right thing so you don't kill anyone, and no one wants to do that. But don't train the person who's in the wages department, who works from home. I remember one of the best training I ever went on when I worked for a big supermarket, I won't mention the name, based in Bradford, and it took us all, because we were managers, on the petrol station safety training. You had to do it, it was mandatory. So I'm working in a factory, creating products for this supermarket, and working for the supermarket. I'd never been near a petrol station, apart from to put petrol in my car, but I had to do the full, I think about 3-hour training course and pass it, because all managers had to do petrol station training. Now, you know where that came from? Because the store managers of these stores would have had to go to the petrol station and run it and make sure it worked well and make sure it was safe. Total understand that. But just because I was at the level meant I had to do the training. Made no sense. Other things you don't need to do. Don't isolate training. Training that happens in a vacuum doesn't work. Learning needs to be integrated with the team's goals. So when you're doing training and setting training plans, make sure you're training the right people, but also make sure that there's clear goals inside that person's development plan to actually make those training happen. And of course, have the conversation with the person and see if they really do need the training. So let's move on to the positives. What are the do's? Firstly, you do need to analyse before you train anyone. Ask what skill gaps are we trying to close? What are the measured behaviours we want to change? So do that right before you even mention the word training. And of course, do involve the managers. When leaders reinforce the training afterwards, it stick rate rockets. Your sticking rate goes massive if your managers are bought into it. Think of them as the coaches, not just as people standing on the sideline watching. Get your managers, even if they're not doing the training, to be the coaches of it. And do use real work examples. Make it job specific or even site specific. If it's a communication training, use examples of actual emails or presentations or phone calls that you've got. If it's a food safety, show them examples of when things have gone wrong and how important it is to get them right. And the fourth do plan the follow-ups. Build in post-training refreshers, coaching, check-ins, simple 15-minute team debrief a week later to double check the impact of that training and see how you can do better. Not just give them a form at the end to fill in. We do this all the time, don't we? Give them a form. So how's it gone? People are normally nice. They say nice things about the trainer. They say the lunch was lovely. The online platform worked well, but they don't really say what they really mean. So give it a bit of time to settle in and have an open and honest conversation with people being on the training. Do they actually remember it? Do they keep it? Does it reinforce what they're actually doing? So we've done the do's and the don'ts. of setting up the training and getting it to go in the right direction, make sure it's obviously needed and delivered right and all those good stuff. But let's have a look at how do we make the training stick. And that's what they call in psychological terms sticking. You make it sticky, tacky. How do you hold on to it? Let's talk about that secret sauce. What actually makes training stick? The things that actually mean a lot to you will land. If you can tie it into some sort of psychological story, you can make it actually mean a lot, and then it'll land and make a difference. So here's some of the top 5 ingredients to make your training that real tacky stickiness. Use spaced repetition. Humans have a terrible attention span. Most of you have probably stopped listening to this in part because something else came in your brain. So come back to the show. You're back, yeah. Humans have an awful attention span. So what you got to do is, instead of having these big long sessions, which people are going to switch off, do it spread out learning over time, micro learning, do follow-ups, refreshers, quizzes. Those are the better ways than trying to cram everything into that hour. I know it's tight for time, but you'll get better bang for your buck. Look at social learning. People love to bounce off others. I've done courses of distance and I've got the qualification at the end, but it's so much nicer if you're in a learning group with some peers. You can share experiences. You tend to learn from actions. You listen to someone's story about when something's gone right or wrong, and you think, wow. And when it comes up again, you remember that story. You remember Bob or Janet telling you that tale when you were in the training course. You think, I remember that. Immediately apply it. You've heard it before. If you don't use it, you lose it. How many of you can remember something that you learned at school? Say algebra. I've never understood algebra, but if you're at school and you did algebra, then you're not going to remember it now. It was years since. So give people a chance to use what they've learned right away. If you're training someone on feedback skills, for instance, then get them to do some feedback that same day. Then management reinforce. So the fourth part of these sticky tips is to manage the reinforcements. Get your managers to make their part of it of the day-to-day. When leaders model that behaviour and they talk about it in meetings and recognise the improvement, it starts to stick because people, again, social animals, like to get praise. So if your training's working and you're doing it, then it works. The fifth one, behavioural nudges, reminders, prompts, tools like checklists and job aids help people use those new behaviours they've learnt in the right way. So let's go through them 5 again in case you didn't get it. Look in it. Number 1 is around repetition. So number 1, repetition. See what I did then? So it's about spacing it out. Number 2, social learning. Get people involved. Bounce off people. Number 3, immediately applying it. You use it or you lose it. Number 4, management reinforcement. Make it part of the day-to-day. And number 5 is behavioural nudges. Make it part of the job. Make it real. Make it count. Okay, let's have a quick recap. Turning training from a waste of time into something that's really worth doing takes some planning, takes some effort, but it's well worth it. I want to wrap up today. If we don't remember anything from this show, well, it's wasted the title on it, but let's think of it as we want a training. It's not some magic fix for a start. Training will not change the culture massively. It'll help in certain areas, and as we said at the start, there's some training that you're definitely going to have as part of the prerequisite, but it only works when it's part of a system. It can't stand alone as just one event. So let's think of it. You need to diagnose the real problem when you're looking at training. So if training is the fix, is it really? So use your problem-solving tools to get to the real fault before you throw training in there. Train with a purpose. Don't just train everyone scattergun. Make it relevant. Make sure it is relevant to what people are doing. Reinforce it consistently through management, through behaviours, through the actions, through the culture. And of course, that last point, get the people involved, get the managers involved, make it feel that it's important, because it is important. You're using people's most precious thing, and that's time. And when you do training well and it starts to stick, no one will say it's a waste. They will remember it and they will use it. If you don't, you might as well just throw your money out the window. So, that's what you've learned today. Hopefully you could take some away from this. What I'd love to know is what you did take away from this. So, little quiz at the end. Send me what you've learned from this show without re-listening, or if you want to re-listen, that's fine. Good for the numbers. To managementpodcast@gmail.com. Love to hear if you learned anything. Love to hear if you thought this was nonsense. Don't really mind. Feedback is a gift. So please keep giving. Well, that's it for Manager Matt this week. Thank you so much for listening. and goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening to this Manager Matt podcast. We hope you found it interesting, helpful and actionable. One last thing, please leave a quick review on iTunes or with your podcast provider, as it helps to spread the word of Manager Matt. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you did like anything in particular, send an email to managermattpodcast@gmail.com or visit managermatt.co.uk for more content. Feedback is a gift, so let's keep giving. See you next week.